Good morning. It is July 19th. It's 9 o'clock. We're in the Commissioner Boardroom. We have a full slate of commissioners, the administrator, and the clerk of the board. And at this time, I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from June 28th and July 5th. Is there any addition, corrections?
No.
Okay, minutes are good. Next order of business is the vouchers.
We have one voucher today. It is fund expenditures. Move for approval of fund expenditures in a total amount of $92,865.18 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the auditor's office and the county administrator.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have the consent agenda, 3 items on the consent agenda.
Move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 3.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the 3 consent agenda items. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Next, we'll move down to the administrator commissioner updates. Mr. Johnson, please.
Yes, good morning. Yesterday participated in a short meeting with the state auditor's office. They're kicking off their annual audit and doing their preliminary review. Also participated in the WASAC virtual call yesterday, giving a statewide update on juvenile justice issues. The BIPIN conversion is continuing, spending some time making sure that that is moving forward. Also had a meeting last week with my counterparts across the state through WASAC and the county administrators organization. We were mostly discussing ARPA funds and how those are being used across different counties and different projects, and some of the challenges that our counties are dealing with in terms of the administrative side of reporting their work to the U.S. Treasury. Participated last week with Mr. Erdman from Public Works in a kind of a community leadership group. It involved the city, the port, a number of other entities discussing the possibility of a road extension along Burns Road between Glade Road and Road 52, kind of identifying some of the issues and concerns with that possibility, and that's a work in progress. It's going to take some continuing time to work out some of the details. And then listened in on the what's called the 1152 Committee. This is the reorganization or restructuring of the Ben Franklin Health District Board. And that, again, is work that's continuing. Thank you.
Commissioner Peck.
Washington State Aviation Advisory Committee meeting, Benton Franklin Council Governments Board meeting, WASAC juvenile detention presentation that Keith referenced, and then some constituent conversations. That's it. Thanks.
Commissioner Mullen.
Participated in the Ben Franklin Transit Workshop on Wednesday the 13th, and also the Ben Franklin Transit Executive Board membership on Thursday. Ben Franklin Transit has on display right now a new smaller bus for the fixed routes. So hopefully that maybe solve some of the issues with running all the bigger buses around the Tri-Cities, something that's more efficient. Looking forward to the new general manager coming in at Ben Franklin Transit. And the sales tax proposal got taken off of the table. I still believe that it should have been up to the people to make that decision, but anyways, it was removed, and now that I guess it's my belief that probably next year they'll rewrite that Move Ahead Washington plan to make it more clear, and I think we lost the opportunity to take a look at the reduction in sales tax, but that's, again, that's just my opinion, and I feel that that's what's going to happen when they meet again. They'll make the decision more clear as far as any tax reductions and not being able to qualify for the Move Ahead Washington plan. And also participated in the WASAC meeting yesterday. That's my report.
Okay, so I also participated in the Ben Franklin Transit Workshop, which wasn't a workshop. The first hour was fear-mongering about what was going to happen. Sunday service was going to be removed. All these bus routes were going to be removed for a 0.01%. And Ben Franklin Transit's budgets went from $43 million 4 years ago to $57 million today. Their sales tax is up, and all they did was just put fear out there of what was going to happen, which is typically what government does. And then the Ben Franklin meeting, I proudly say that both Franklin County Commissioners voted to leave it on the ballot or leave it on the tables to go onto the ballot for the voters to vote on. I think it's their vote. It's their tax money. And this assessment that is thrown out there that it's only going to cost you, and we keep hearing it, a cup of coffee. No. You think about a family of 4 to 6 kids, all the school supplies they got to buy, it's more than a cup of coffee for those low-income, medium-income families. And it's hurting them terribly with this inflation the way it's hitting. And then we had our meeting, and I am proud to say that Commissioner Mullen and I both held fast on it to keep the leverage. We're making sure we buy these smaller buses that are $150,000 instead of $1.1 million for these big buses. And these little buses will seat 14 people. This is all we need. We can afford 6 buses compared to 1 big bus. It's just economics. It's how to move people around more efficiently and effective, less costly. And we're still battling. We're not giving up yet. But I was a little disappointed in our members of the directors over across the river. Also got a call, many calls, and I also had it happen. I got 3 windshields with chips in it. I know we chip sealed Glade Road. Really nice, quick job. Good job, guys, on the quickness. But finding that these chips are happening with these big trucks that are running on the road, and they're not obeying the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. And I did see one sheriff working and pulled over a car, but we need to focus on these big trucks because they just pepper your rig when they go by with all that loose rock. And then, Keith, I'm asking, who is our code enforcement officer?
Well,
Do we have one?
we have a code enforcement program through planning and building. Mike Troidel does most of that work, but if it's kind of a shared relationship with the sheriff's office, depending on what
Yeah, I've already talked.
nature of the violation.
And I already talked to the sheriff, and he's willing to go out there with him because there's been a complaint there in Eltopia again, and there is a contrast of a picture, and I'll show you afterwards. We need to pay a visit and make sure that we're not allowing people that do not follow the code.
Sure.
So I'll show you after the meeting the picture that I've received from the constituent, and the sheriff said that he would go out there with the code enforcement, and he knows right where it's at. Everybody sees it. You can see it from the highway. But that's my report for the day, and next we'll move down to public comment. Anybody for public comment?
Good morning. I really appreciate the YouTube broadcasts of these. It's, as a disabled individual who sometimes is bedridden, it's very moving to have access to your meetings, because these are something that we all need, is to be here. We all need representation, and we all need to know what's going on. I think that's part of the process, or the idea that freedom doesn't come free. We have to be here, we have to attend, we have to show up, we have a duty. We can't just let things burn down. We have to make sure that buses are smaller. I agree. Just recently, I haven't rode a lot of public transit here. Just recently, I have rode some public transit, and the bus is like 2 people on it. And I'm driving around town, and I get on another bus, and there's 2 people on it. And I'm like, wait a minute. This, for me, I drove semi-truck, and that would have been like having one thing in my semi-trailer when I could have had 18 more pallets. My company always put 18 more pallets in there because it's just financial. You go out of business, especially with inflation like you're talking. I do want to, the reason I'm here kind of is, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Victor Scott, and I was a member of the Pasco community, and I coached youth football, and I taught young youth Boy Scouts for 11 years in the Pasco community. In 2014, as no fault of my own during a workplace accident, I received an anoxic brain injury. And after receiving that anoxic brain injury, I went through 5 years of I went through 12 weeks of inpatient rehabilitation, but 5 years of rehabilitation. And in trying to reintegrate into my community and access my community and have access like these YouTube videos show me, I was confronted with this disdain, kind of like my disability, recognizing my disability was burdensome, and giving me the due process or the time to speak adequately and be heard was burdensome. And so, anyway, so I think we have some things going on in our community that people need to understand. There have been 4 tragic random deaths inside community corrections in this facility. Now within that, I can explain to you that, again, as I said, as a member of this community, and then trying to have my government access and spending time in that community, in that facility, I was held myself without water for 3 days in a cell because I have a mental disability, they say, or they call me mentally ill. But as I say, I have a cognitive processing disorder from my acquired brain injury. I do not have any mental illness or in any way mentally ill. But I would say that if you tie that together with the random deaths and the fact that when I asked about having water given to me in court, I was told to get out of the court, and that was a bother. So I think that's a very big reason we should be here today, is because the people that were missing or left alone unattended long enough that they were unrecoverable, and they were not even, they had such low life sign they didn't even get transported. My daughter performed the Heimlich maneuver on a gentleman unsuccessfully and watched for 15 minutes while the paramedics tried to revive him this year and at a family picnic and helped him load him into the ambulance, and they took him to the hospital where they pronounced him dead. They made sure the doctor did everything they could, but people here in this facility don't have that access. They're a mile away and they weren't transported. And I think when you think about things like Uvalde, Texas, and you find out what really happened there, that they sat back and waited for over 80 minutes because of whatever their reasons were, but they lied to us, and they were hoping that they weren't going to release their body cam footages, and as we know, it wasn't released till it was leaked. Couple that, one last comment, couple that together with the elections, I think, that are going on here. If you look at the public comment and the reason there is an election in your local law enforcement going on, he stated that when his police department filed a complaint to the sheriff's office that they were being harassed, they received no more backup. Now that allegation might just be an allegation, but it comes from the chief of police of Connell. And if you can imagine that a sheriff's department is no longer covering Connell, every single citizen in Connell was going without service because of a personal dispute between 2 law enforcement officers who take an oath and a duty to stand up and put that shit aside. Just put it aside. You have a community, just like in Uvalde, they should have put all that aside, ran in their own, they had a training March 19th. Their own training said you confront the gunman, you go in and stop it. It's the only way to stop it. They went against their own training. They had the personal. we're doing things personal here in this county, and I think it's dangerous. And I think, as I said, in 2019, people are going to die because of this. And I think if you look forward now today, people have died because of this. And I think it's dangerous. I don't want people to die. I'm not on the side of dying. And me standing here talking about this does not mean I support the death or violence. It means I'm trying to speak about it, and I'm trying to let you know what's happening, because I became disabled, and I learned that my community does not like the disabled. They treat me as though people say it must be nice to be disabled and get a paycheck. I don't have visual awareness. When people come up on me quick, I can't see them. My eyes go crossed, and I have what they call a convergence disorder. And so it's not fun. I'm a father of 3 kids, and I can't even work and support them. It's not fun to be disabled. And when I became disabled and I sought access from the very community I worked and lived in, I was attacked. And I think if we look really what's going on, the community needs help. And we need not to force everyone to go to federal court to have their access. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. Speaking just a little bit about what our county administrator shared with you about one of the meetings he was in. I chaired or hosted that meeting about connecting Burns Road over to Glade Road. And I'm here to ask that you get engaged and involved in that project. It's going to take some considerable coordination between the county and the city and the surrounding landowners. A couple of the areas that are of challenge in that is this crosses the city-county boundary. So a majority of this project would be in the county with a minority in the city. There's quite a few, there's some heavy lifts to happen in this. Number one, it's a big project going from zero to developing this out. It's over 2 miles of road to do this. It's going to take coordination with the surrounding landowners to acquire right-of-way and so forth. Something that was brought out during this meeting that had more support than I realized it did was the safety aspect of what this project might bring. I invited our law enforcement and our first responders to be at this meeting and to share their thoughts. They were describing, so Chief Gear was describing how that they are between a 7 and 10 minute response time to this area. This would connect Fire District Number 3 to some of the very edges of Pasco. There's some consideration that needs to be taken there. Something that was brought out that was new. I'd certainly considered it, but didn't think about it as part of this project. From 182 here in Pasco, the next safe railroad crossing north of Pasco is Mesa. Everything else is at grade. We have a tremendous amount of ag that crosses the railroad. And so in that meeting, it was brought out that we really need to cross the railroad, either going over or going under, to give us better access to 395. So this is going to be a heavy lift for everybody. Not heavy necessarily, but it certainly is going to need coordination between the county, the city, the surrounding landowners, and would ask that you actively get engaged. Thank you for being there, Keith, and contributing what you did. Our Craig, our county engineer, was there as well and contributed to this meeting. And just I'm asking that you get involved and engaged in this project. We need better roads, better traffic. We haven't done any real significant road projects since 182 went into, crossed the river into Richland, and that was some 40 years ago approximately. So just ask that you would get involved in this, consider helping fund it. Not sure exactly what all this would look like. We've started the process. We're anticipating having another meeting in approximately 6 weeks to 2 months. The city's doing some preliminary high-level look at budgeting and so forth of the cost. Not sure if this would need to be a county-led or can be a city-led because of the majority of the project being in the county. But just ask that you get involved and help work on this traffic issue that we have in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Anybody on the phone, Keith?
Going on the phone.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move down to administration office business.
Yeah, I'm going to request an executive session later in the meeting, but that's all the admin office business we'll have this morning.
Okay. Moves us down to public comment. Anybody else for public comment? All right, Keith, seeing none, we'll move into executive session. You want to take us into that?
Yes, sir, thank you. I would request a executive session for 30 minutes under RCW 42.30.110, paragraph 1, subparagraph G. Review performance of a public employee. Would ask that the members of the board, the members of the PA's office, which would be the prosecuting attorney and civil deputy, I believe, that are joining by phone, and Eric Wyant from HR.
And for how long?
Up to 30 minutes. I think we can probably
Okay,
address it in there. We might need to extend, but
okay.
Keith, I'll be calling in.
Jen, are you on? Oh, okay. Sean, we're going to turn on the executive session line, so you'll have to call into that
All
one.
right, I'll call in on that line. Thanks.
Your call cannot be. Welcome. To join the conference now, please enter a meeting number followed. If you are the meeting host, please enter your PIN.
We've come out of executive session. We're going to go back into same executive session for another 30 minutes. Same RCW. We still got a minute and a half. Okay, we've come out of executive session, and we're back into regular session. Is there any other business for the good of the county? I would just like to say that I would like to make it publicly known that I support our HR director, Eric Wyatt, in all of his decision-making. And I would like the other commissioners to join me in supporting our HR director on
I
the
do
decisions.
support Eric. I think he does a great job, and I think he has stepped up and taken on a lot of responsibility. And I think he's done an excellent job of filling that position.
So I've supported Eric all along. I continue to. And by the way, his last name is Wyant, not Wyatt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Peck, for the correction. But I think he's doing a wonderful job, and if there's no other business for the good of the county, I will adjourn this meeting.